Welcome back, everybody, to the Skullcast, where two brothers who happen to be Vikings fans love to talk about football. My name is Asher Whitmer, and it's my brother Christopher Whitmer wearing the official apparel. I don't think I have any Vikings apparel.
This is honestly probably yours from childhood.
The what? Oh, really?
I said this is honestly probably yours from childhood.
Really?
I don't know. I think I got it from Dad's stash.
Yeah, maybe I did have a Vikings hat. I forget. I actually don't really enjoy purple and gold when it comes to color. Like the high school I played ball in, we were that color. The International Falls Broncos, purple and gold. I do like the modern Viking jerseys. Like I think that looks a little sleeker or nicer. But and I like your skull. The other skull cap that you wear with the skull. Yeah. That's kind of fun. Anyways, we have some exciting news as a young YouTube channel / podcast show. We have a whopping 8 subscribers as of the time of this recording. So that's I wasn't sure anybody would listen to us. It's not like we're very professional at this or anything, but we have like 62 views and 8 subscribers. And so, yeah, definitely if you enjoy Vikings, but even if you just enjoy football conversation, maybe you're a fan of one of our rival teams and you just like to get your blood boiling a little bit every now and then and you want to hear what we have to say, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, share with your friends. Keep an eye. We had one of my friends locally who was like, hey, are you on Spotify? And I hadn't really thought about putting it on Spotify, but we could. It's not that hard to get it on Spotify, so maybe we'll throw. The only thing that's hard is I'd have to render an audio version as well as the video version, which takes like 2 seconds. So keep an eye out for Spotify. But yeah, let's see if we can get 15 or 16 subscribers by next week. We'll see how we go here.
Double it the whole way.
So if you can do 16, you can do 32. You can do 32. Okay. We just how are you feeling? We had, this was week 7 and the Vikings had their first loss to the Detroit Lions at home. What's your takeaway from this?
So having sat on it for like 4 days or 3 days or whatever, I feel pretty good. I feel like we almost won the game, and that like from what I've seen people breaking down film and talking about it and stuff, it seems like it wasn't like a lack of skill or a lack of whatever that we lost. It felt like very like some scheme problems on defense, and then some missed throws by Darnold, and maybe just a little bit of, I don't know what you call it, like fluster, seeing ghosts or whatever. So it feels like if Brian Flores can adjust and we get Hawkinson back on offense and Sam Darnold can continue to improve and calm down, and that's probably the biggest question mark. If those things can happen, then we easily beat the Lions, and maybe we beat them the next time we see them.
Yeah. It's really, that game was the Vikings. They have, even if they go down and are able to convert for a field goal on their final drive, it's very most likely the Vikings win that game. 'Obviously, one of the things I walk away just acknowledging is that first of all, Detroit is a very good team, very good offense. I don't
Yeah.
know that I'd call them the best offense in the league. Like Baltimore's going strong right now,
Yeah.
and I think they probably are the best. But I do personally would lean towards Goff being the MVP favorite right now. Like
Yeah. He's playing very well.
he was not flustered at all with the blitz.
Yeah.
It's interesting going into the game because last year he wasn't flustered by the Flores blitz, but the Super Bowl that Goff lost, Brian Flores was a part of that uh,
Oh, interesting.
Patriots team, and they blitzed him all the time. Like Flores got to him in that Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but he seems like he's a very mature, and that's kind of someone I've always kind of, when Cousins was still at the Vikings and people would poke fun at Cousins, I always looked over at Goff and was like, well, I don't see them being that much different. They're kind of your traditional pocket passers, and you know, in many ways, maybe a little overrated. I would say this year we're seeing Goff, if not last year already, but like he's showing why he was a number one pick overall. Like he
Yeah.
has definitely come into
He
his
has that
own,
talent. Yeah.
and just the ability, like that very last drive, to perfectly drain the clock and yet convert everything that they need. Like everything went right, and that's really like in my opinion, that's the difference of the game. You had the better quarterback.
Yeah.
Darnold could have put that game away, and he kind of went quiet for two, like the second quarter, the third quarter. He could have squelched that quarter or squelched the
Yeah.
Lions and put the game away. Whether you blame Flores, I don't know. Yeah, it did seem like they, on one hand, it was like they kept blitzing, and Goff he's beating the blitz. Like, stop, do something different. But at the same time, it was the defense putting pressure that then caused some fumbles
Yeah.
and caused they returned
Yep.
for a touchdown, got them right back in that game, gave them the lead.
Yep.
So I don't, yeah, I'm not, for me, it was this thing of expectation reset going into the season. I thought the Vikings, I thought they'd have an elite defense. I thought they'd have a top five. I thought that was a hot take going into the season. And it turns out that's just like fact. That's not a hot take.
Right.
But I knew O'Connell would get the best out of Darnold, and how good
Yeah.
that actually turns out to be was the big X factor. But I was pretty sure, doing the schedule analysis, they should be able to get 9 to 10 wins.
Yeah.
Well, then they beat some of the most difficult teams that we thought they'd lose to. And so then we're like, our expectations rise to that. It's like, well, they should keep
Yeah.
winning. And even I'm a little disappointed in the sense that I thought like it's going to be even harder to beat them in Detroit. I thought the Vikings would get their home games against divisional rivals, but the reality is nobody turned into a pumpkin. Like this is
Mhm.
not, everybody knows. Like we everybody knows. It is fascinating how many people
Mhm.
are floating the idea of like extending Darnold, or especially after the first 4 or 5 weeks, extending Darnold and
Yeah.
maybe holding off on McCarthy and stuff. Like, no, we all knew heading into the season that O'Connell was going to craft a plan with McCarthy, and this is why. This is why
Yeah.
why the Vikings are not extending Darnold. Um, but there's a lot of people that have been holding out on the Vikings to be like, well, wait till they just all collapse and stuff. It's like, hey, for the
They
expectations
didn't.
we had coming
Yeah.
into this season, that was an incredible game. It
Yeah.
was theirs to have. They could have won it if that last drive went a little different. Maybe a little bit different clock management could have helped. Jefferson was hardly targeted, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a fun game. It was sad to lose the perfect record, but there's so much from that game, and like you pointed out, there were people missing, that additions that'll be coming, that it's like I'm excited to see round two. and
Yeah.
maybe there will be a round three.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very difficult to beat this. Some people talk about it all the time. It's very difficult to beat an NFL team 3 times in a season. Um, and so even if we lose the season closer, then we get to beat them. But
Then that means we have the NFC
statistically,
championship.
um,
Hey, when you're a Vikings fan, you hang on to any kind of hope.
that's right. Yeah, it's also
So
interesting. It feels like the difference between these two teams will ultimately come down to the quarterback. Um, and statistically, I mean, I was just looking. I didn't watch the game because I was at work, but and usually I listen to the game because I like listen to Paul Allen and I don't want to pay a lot of money. But um, statistically, Darnold didn't play that terribly. He had one interception, um, the same amount of
it,
completions, two more attempts than Goff, and very similar yardage, and barely threw to Jefferson. And if he had thrown to Jefferson a few more times, I mean, Jefferson creates plays. So I guess what I'm saying is I know Sam Darnold missed some pretty obvious reads from what I've seen people talk about. So like it'll just be interesting to see how he corrects down the stretch. Feels like that'll be the difference between these teams.
I was actually really encouraged. If you look at the grand scheme of things, the last 10 quarters have not looked very good for Darnold.
Yeah,
But I think the last 2 quarters have looked significantly improved from the
interesting.
8 quarters in between there. And so, like, to
Yeah,
me, that was hopeful. It's like, hey,
yeah,
he participated in, obviously, it was a defensive touchdown that got
yeah,
them the lead, but he participated in bringing him back, and even just a sense of calmness. Like, he didn't have. Did he throw an interception in that game?
yeah. Darnold, yeah.
Yeah, but
It
it
was,
was like there was
yeah,
he didn't have
good.
a big brain fart play
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for as big of a game as it was, like that was encouraging. Just how whether that's O'Connell's influence or whatever, maybe some things that he's learned even last year when he was with the Niners. Um, because that's kind of what he's been known for a little bit is panicking, and then he just tries to do too much. Excuse me. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I I think it comes down to the better of the two quarterbacks, or Dan Campbell. Like if he can just stay a little too aggressive, like that might be an edge too that the Vikings could uh
yeah,
could take advantage of. But I mean, I guess O'Connell's plenty aggressive sometimes as well. But
yeah.
it was interesting that they didn't really do any trick plays, any sort of thing. Which I was listening to some
Lions or
dialogue.
Vikings?
The Lions. I don't think they did any trick plays. Well, they tried to do the fake
They
punt.
try to do punt. Yeah, the Vikings read that like book.
Yeah, yeah. Which I would assume that this game had plenty of kind of high level chess play where
Yeah,
trying to give each other a show one degree. Like maybe
yeah,
even some of that was happening defensively for the Vikings, where they're not going to show all their cards till you get farther into the season and the games
yeah,
have higher stakes. I don't know, but
yeah,
there's there's one thing that I was thinking about this with this game. There is this myth that we tell ourselves in sports. I don't, have you ever heard? I was talking with you about it, but do you hear like that?
yeah.
Offense breaks records, defense wins championships.
Oh,
Have you
for
heard
sure.
that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But that is statistically not actually very accurate. And I don't know what I think it's probably because you often hear it at lower level sports, and so the value of putting effort into your fundamentals and having good defense.
Right.
But like just for sake of example, like last year the Patriots had one of the best defenses in the league, but they also had one of the worst offenses in the league, and they did not make the tournament. They didn't make the playoffs. The Dolphins last year had one of the best, maybe the best offense in the league, and one of the weakest defenses. Well, they made the tournament. They got bounced immediately, but same thing with the 22 Vikings, like one of the strongest offenses, but horrible defense. They made the
Mhm.
tournament. They got bounced. But if you want to go even to championships, Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl
Yeah.
was against the number one defense. And that's
Yeah.
everybody was talking about it going in. The San Francisco, I was going to say Giants, the San Francisco 49ers. And even within baseball, the the teams that win in October are the teams who hit the most home runs. Like you can have really good pitching staffs and pitching staff like I'll correct. I'll give a counter here in a moment. But like the one of the most consistent stats when it comes to playoff baseball is the team that hits the most home runs wins the series. Now that does not mean just like the 22 Vikings or the 23 Dolphins. If you have a bad defense, you're going to get bounced early. You need to have a good defense
Right.
to stay competitive. But the only time that that defense wins is true is when you have comparable offenses and there's disparity in your defense. But you
Right.
have you otherwise it's almost always. I've been tracking this for I think it was like 2016 when I started thinking about it during while I was teaching school. I was thinking about that. So what is that? Like 8 years now. And almost always when you have comparable teams, it's the one with the better offense that wins. You could have like
Sure.
and so like if you have top 10 defenses and you have top 10 offenses. So like these are comparable, the one with
Hmm.
the better offense wins. And I think that's what it came down to with the Vikings even because the Vikings have a better defense. Like defensively they had as many tackles or sacks, but the Vikings had more tackles for loss. The Vikings had more pressures. Obviously the Lions fans want to
Hmm.
say well Hutchinson was out, but I think um even just as far as like the point differential, the Vikings to this day have one point better in point differential than the Lions. But
Yeah.
it was the Lions had the better offense, and that's why they won. The more disciplined offense too.
Yeah. Very disciplined. Yeah. It'll be
But
interesting to see. Line. Yeah. Good.
oh, sorry, I'm reading a text from my wife. Oh, I was gonna say, but like you said, the Vikings are getting some pieces that should be helpful.
Yeah.
What's it? Yeah, it'll be
Also,
the
go ahead.
the thing that's just fun is that they're good. Like they are the two best teams in the NFC as of right now,
For sure. For sure.
and just to watch that go back and forth, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Nobody turned into a pumpkin.
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah. NFC North is going to be interesting. It, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I was going to say. It's fine. It doesn't. So,
So what? Yeah, the NFC North. There are teams that obviously teams like the Vikings that people did not expect to be good, and they have turned out good. And
yeah.
we'll get in a little bit. We'll get into some teams that we thought would be bad, which are primarily everybody in the NFC North. No, I knew I knew the Packers would be good. I thought the Packers would have the
Yeah.
division. I respected the Lions. Yeah, we can get into this more. Like the Lions won it last year, you have to respect that.
Yeah.
But I thought the Packers would be. But as far as Bears and Lions, they've definitely. done better. But there are teams like, let's talk a little bit about teams that people around national media were all over. And again, this is somewhat of a bent of like a jaded Vikings fan, but I remember after
Right.
week 2, the Saints had just creamed like the 2 worst teams in the NFL, and everybody was like, "Oh, I'm buying Saints stock," and everybody was, or particularly, I forget what
Insane.
show it is. I think it's ESPN does like a buy. Are you buying or are you selling stock in? And they were selling
Mhm.
Minnesota stock, and largely it was the Sam Darnold effect. I think people didn't trust
Yeah.
him, but as it turns out, the Saints have completely folded. Now, obviously, they can complain of some injuries. Um, Jared, what's his name? Derek
Derek Carr.
Carr is injured, but what are some other teams that people thought? And are you surprised by it? So we've got the Saints. Everybody thought they would be good after a couple weeks. Cowboys. Everybody thought the Cowboys were going to. Well, did
Yeah.
everybody think the Cowboys would be good?
There's kind
Maybe
of
that's
this
not a
perennial
fair.
thing with the Cowboys where everyone kind of thinks that they could be good or they should be good. I think there were a lot more question marks this year just because they didn't really do anything in the off season to improve. Um, and so I think a lot of people were like questioning, whether or not they were going to be that good. But there's kind of this assumption that the Cowboys are good, and in just in my entire life, I'm 28 years old. The Cowboys have never been a juggernaut. Like, and maybe I'm just forgetting. Like, I know they had some good years with Tony Romo. I know they've had a couple of good years with Dak Prescott, but there's never been a moment where I remember in a season it was like, oh yeah, you gotta watch out for the Cowboys. Not in the same way that there has been for the Niners or even the Eagles at
Oh
times.
no, yeah.
Like um
Well,
like there's
hey, when was the
the
last time
Eagles.
the Cowboys were in a Super Bowl?
Oh, it's I don't think they have been in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, maybe like the 90s. I was born 95, so like
Well, yeah. I mean, they went to 3.
well
Did they
they
win
yeah,
3
they won 3 in the 90s.
in the
Two
90s?
were back
Yeah,
to back. Yeah.
yeah.
Um but yeah, I mean they haven't been
I
anything like the Niners or the Eagles or the Rams.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you heard the comments from Jerry Jones this week about Derrick Henry.
I didn't actually listen to them, but I've been seeing the quotes go around.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially said that he doesn't think Derrick Henry would be having that kind of year
Oh
with
yes,
them,
I did see that. Yeah.
which it was weird.
Jerry
Like it
Jones is
just
ridiculous.
the
Yeah.
guy has, yeah, I don't
He
know.
loves
Try to be
he loves
respectful.
it when all those reporters surround him and put mics and cameras in his phone. I think he just gets a thrill out of that. Um,
But it's almost like he's almost lose. I don't know if I want to say it. It's almost like he's just kind of getting old mentally, even like not
oh
like
yeah,
what.
for sure.
And as a like when you're going to try to be the GM of your team, like that's kind of a big deal. Like
Yeah,
either either he's really wanting to take digs at McCarthy for running an offense a certain way, but that doesn't even make sense because you paid CeeDee Lamb and you paid
yeah,
Dak Prescott, and so everything has to run through them. But you could have gotten all those deals done a lot faster, plus sign Derrick Henry for 8 million or whatever he signed for,
right.
and that would be a huge difference. I do think I am surprised. I thought Zimmer would do better with the defense. Like their defense is really soft,
Yeah,
and that surprises
yeah.
me a little bit.
I think
Um,
he's lost his fastball.
yeah. Do you think he's
Like I
lost his
think
fastball, or has he like did the end of his tenure with Minnesota just kind of do him in? Period. with as a
You mean
coach.
mentally he doesn't have it anymore?
Yeah. Well, or
Um,
like, is this kind of trying
well,
to prove, but he's bitter and he's trying to prove himself. And you know
he's
how like
certainly
bitterness,
better.
even if you're really skilled,
Yeah,
bitterness like kind of tweaks you just
it's
enough
at
that
you.
you're not as good anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think better B- Bill Belichick seems like the most bitter person out there.
That's
He
true.
did pretty well. I mean,
Although his media persona is fixing that a
yeah,
little bit. It does
yeah, it
strike
is.
you as awkward sometimes.
You ever hear him talk about the Jets though? He's never
Yeah.
forgive the Jets. Um,
But he almost like at least he can have some fun with it a little bit.
yeah,
Whereas I don't know if
yeah.
Zimmer could even. Like Zimmer
Oh
is
no,
it
I
was
do. So Zimmer seems like a not pleasant person. I do want to extend him compassion because he's gone through a lot of suffering. But um, but he like people. I mean, players talk about being as the head coach of the Vikings, not even having conversations with him or like never talked to him. Micah Parsons talked about it this summer. Like someone was like, "Hey, how's it having a coach for Zimmer?" And I don't know if they were in training camp yet, so
did you I
whatever.
think
But
you just said a coach for Zimmer.
how is it having Zimmer for a coach? And he's like, I haven't had a conversation with him yet. And this was like well into the summer. Um, Now I'm sure they talked over training camp
Interesting.
and stuff, but
Yeah.
like there's just Zimmer is the total opposite of like O'Connell or McVay or um, even
Yeah.
Andy Reid, Um, which
Yeah.
probably
Those
works a little bit better as a defensive coordinator, but I
well
don't think that
even
works in 2024.
yeah, so obviously like at the beginning of the year, Tua's comments about Flores came out, and so there's been conversation around that. But Flores seems to even be a little bit more personable with his players than, and maybe he's
Yeah,
changed. Maybe
I
he's
think
tried to change a little bit more. But
I
then
think it's
what?
some of it.
Zimmer,
Yeah,
yeah, Zimmer strikes me as not really engaging at all. It's just like he's there to tell you what to do, and me,
yeah.
yeah. So I guess
Go
go
ahead.
for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, um, Van Ginkel played under Flores in Miami, and he seems to like.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Well, and the guys in Minnesota all seem to like him.
Yeah,
Yeah. So are you and we'll go through this. Oh, did I skip over our picks? We didn't review our picks at all, did we?
we we
Did
didn't.
we?
No, we didn't.
Because I was going to talk about the Jets. I'll just quickly take a look at this. We've had two really good weeks back to back in terms of our picking abilities.
We're well above 500.
We're 12 games above 500. We are tied between the two of us. I would like to point out that the Broncos won, but particularly that the Packers won. So I'm just trying to, whoops, what am I doing? Endear myself to the rival here.
Oh, don't
But
even.
this is an example where Christopher's bitterness got in the way of his love is a good quarterback.
Did
Actually,
you see that?
this might,
Did you see that
this might,
touchdown was almost a pick?
hey, hey, but do you get any points for almost picking? Yeah,
Next
that's what
time you
everybody's
might
saying in
get.
Minnesota right now. Do you get
Yeah.
any points for almost winning? Um, no, this probably stems a little bit just my attitude towards Rodgers. I'm such an anti Rodgers guy uh, that I knew like I was thinking about this week again and watch it like I knew that they would lose. Devontae Adams didn't fix anything.
Yeah.
But hold it. How about Russ? Russ was cooking once he got going. Um,
Yeah.
but like I literally had a visceral feeling when I saw that the Packers had traded Rodgers to the Jets. Uh, Two things went through me. One was like, what kind of scam did they pull? Because he has a huge contract that the Jets had to take on. And then the other thing was a bit of panic. Was like, oh no, I was getting ready for 2 years of mediocrity out of the Jets or out of the
Out of the Packers.
Packers, and now Love's going to come on the scene and he's going to do good. And sure
Yeah.
enough, he has. Even if he's got to learn how to corral himself a little bit, but anyways, we are 51-39 after seven. I guess we didn't make picks the first week, did we? So we're a week behind everybody else. But the were you surprised by the Jets? Like I think that's a thing that continues to just baffle me. I feel really proud about because I feel like I saw this coming for sure 2 years ago. Did you lose me? Are you still there?
I don't know. My app just shut.
Oh, that's
Just
interesting.
shut
I
off.
thought you were sitting there grinning at me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I did get a new phone, and it's
Oh
not the
wow,
worst thing in the world, but
your video is a lot clearer now.
oh, is it?
It was kind of chalky before, but your
My
recording is
video's
actually
choppy.
probably pretty good. But you say my
Yeah,
video, yeah.
yeah. I got a new phone, so I don't know if I haven't been 100% happy. I'd say new. It's refurbished.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was talking about the Jets and
Yeah.
Devontae
The Jets
Adams.
are one of those teams. Did we finish? We might be in the middle of two segments here. We
No, I kind of went back and reviewed our picks, but I'm still
oh yeah.
thinking about teams that everybody thought would be good that aren't actually good. But
Um yeah, the Jets are one that I felt. I mean, I think it does largely come down to Rodgers. I think I expected. I think it would have been interesting to see last year play out without Rodgers getting injured. 'Cause I think I expected that season's team to be better, and I think it would have been. But then they just went through like a whole season of like Rodgers got injured, and then the whole thing was a mess. And and then and then this year just felt like a mess from the start, and Rodgers is contributing to it, and it seems like nobody has each other's back. And I think it's the difference between like the Viking season also went awry in a very similar way last year, but they held together a little bit better. Um,
I mean, they ended with the same record.
yeah, yeah, but
You're just saying as far as morale and temperament on the team.
it felt like there was um, a much easier pathway for the Vikings to make it to the playoffs than the Jets last year. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and
The Jet.
and then coming into this year, they're all like back and energized and better than before, whereas the Jets have definitely like whew, went way over the hill, and I think it's a testament to the health of the organizations. Like I think the Jets are just organizationally a mess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I think there's the whole debate of who's at fault, and obviously Robert Sala was the first to get hung for it, but I think the owner is the one at fault. Like
Yeah.
he's the one that is not. Yeah, but for me personally, one of the evidences of that is that he thought trading for Rodgers would be a good idea from a franchise
Yeah.
perspective, or even
Yeah.
just like I'm not taking anything away from what Rodgers has done. He is a Hall of Fame QB, 100%.
Right.
But his last year was pathetic. It was not good. And they didn't, I mean, they missed the playoffs for one thing. They did still manage to beat the Vikings at least once. I think they won the game in Lambeau. Um, but then even like it seemed to me you didn't really do much research on him as a like if you're going to bring in a big trade, wouldn't you? Because the Packers were fraught with some locker room issues and tensions that year, and him like blaming
Yeah.
his young receivers for not
Oh
catching
yeah,
things and
yeah.
stuff. And well, you're getting
They were
very
young.
similar
Yeah.
stuff now with
Such
young
an arrogant
receivers. In yeah,
Aaron, Aaron Rodgers. He's like one of the most arrogant, unaccountable um athletes I've ever witnessed.
he's an example of someone who has incredible personal skill and leaned
Right.
on that and did not like let his character. I don't know that his character was always so kind of raunchy, but his character definitely slid, and then his body's getting old, and so his skill is diminishing. He still has
Yeah.
the IQ of like what to do in football situations, but like not all these interceptions are Garrett Wilson's fault or Mike Williams' fault.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's that's kind of me reveling in some like I didn't think they would be good.
What
Take
is the
that.
German word? Schadenfreude? Whatever.
I've heard that word. What does it mean?
It's like the word that describes the pleasant feeling you get at seeing your enemies stumble.
Oh yeah, I now remember looking that up once. That yeah, yeah, I'm
Like
experiencing
the little
some.
bit of pleasure of seeing people
Well,
get destroyed.
yeah. In all fairness, I don't think it's pleasure in seeing people get destroyed. It's a satisfaction in that. Yeah, what I thought I saw coming actually did come. Does that make sense? Like I
Yeah, I
don't.
mean, I think that's still a little bit within Schadenfreude, but
I certainly don't
like
take
like
joy in seeing Jets fans go through this misery.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah. But in seeing someone like Aaron Rodgers, particularly to us as Vikings fans, like be revealed to the
Yeah, but
world, it's like
yeah, I don't know. Maybe people need to do some therapy on me. To me, it's like that was a first guess. Like that was not a good idea.
yeah,
And I mean, we obviously nobody watching this or listening to this, they just have to take our word for it. But we WhatsApped about it back then, and
yeah,
I complained all last season that Rich Eisen was whining on his show because, like, I was so bummed when Aaron Rodgers got injured because it delayed the inevitable. Like, I wish they would have seen last year that Rodgers isn't going to
sure,
take you to the playoffs. He's not going to take you to get you a Super Bowl. Um,
yeah,
Not because I don't like Rodgers. And that's kind of why that's my thrust of like why I'm affectionate about love. It's like this is a rival team. I don't like the Packers, but you got to admit love is good and you have to admit
yeah,
Rodgers was good. I'm saying Rodgers is not good. Period. Like
yeah,
he's not coming back. The MVP Rodgers is not walking through that door. We saw it in
yeah,
2022. There was significant difference in the way he played, and I would actually argue I saw some of it in 21 already, even when he won his MVP. Like to me, it felt like was stuffing his stats a little bit that year. Like in games that mattered, he didn't actually play that well, but he played really good statistically. He 13 and
yeah.
3 and like led the league in yardage and touchdowns and fewest receptions, fewest interceptions. Um, Yeah, he won the MVP with the fewest receptions. So I don't think it's this like I'm I'm just delighting in Rodgers' downfall. More it's like I think I could be a professional football scout. He's like, just ask me. It's like, hey, should we invest in this guy?
Let me check my gut feel.
No, that's what
Um,
I'm saying. It wasn't a gut. It
yeah,
was like you
yeah,
could see it with your eyes. That
observation. Yeah, yeah. I yeah. I do
now,
find it like even. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say we could switch the tables a little bit and talk about teams that I thought would be bad, who actually are good,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it shows. What were you? You can finish your thought there.
Oh, I was kind of going the same direction. I was going to start talking about the Bears. Um,
Yeah,
although I think they're still a little bit on the fence for me. Like I think Caleb Williams is better than I expected. I think the Bears still have some medicine to eat yet. Um, coming down the
they
stretch.
also have
I
yet.
don't I don't I don't think the Bears are. If anyone from the NFC North isn't going to the playoffs, I think it's the Bears.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I realize, and we have family that are Bears fans, so I think they would love to see them. But the biggest reason, like the differentiating factor in my mind, I think Caleb Williams very well will win an MVP one day, and he is better. Like coming into the year, I thought Caleb Williams, he's a number one overall pick. There's a reason why that happens. Even when, excuse me, even when they turn into the Trevor Lawrences or whatever, that uh, Zach Wilson wasn't number one, was he overall?
He's number two.
Number two.
Um,
Um,
Josh Rosen is a really good example of.
yeah, but like Williams is clearly like he's had Mahomes comps. He's got that ability, but I just think it's ridiculous how much pressure we put on these young rookie QBs. So like for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
it's like nobody should be shocked if the Bears go 7-10 again. Like give the guy a break. He's got to get a year, get under his feet, and then the other thing is I don't when you compare the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions, I don't think the Bears are nearly as well coached as the other three teams. And I
no,
think
for
that's
sure
the
not.
differentiating factor between and maybe I'm wrong because that is they are definitely doing better than I thought they'd be doing 7 weeks into the season.
Mhm.
And it's a cool story. Like it's really cool to see a rookie and I think the you had mentioned that the Commanders are doing better than what you thought they would do. I like personally, I didn't track a lot of people. Like Caleb was the name of the game, and so I didn't really track him because I knew there wasn't even a chance that the Vikings would trade up to get Caleb. But I did track May, Daniels, and McCarthy. A little bit of Penix, not a whole lot, but and I personally would have loved to see the Vikings get Daniels. Like I just thought
Mm.
what I saw in the film like looked really fun, looked really cool, um, and what I was hearing from actual scouts is that he was maybe one of the most pro ready QBs, and so I'm not surprised to see Daniels doing well, but they definitely
Mhm.
like as a team they're definitely doing a lot better than I expected. I mean they're
Yeah,
leading the division right now, aren't they?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they're 5-2. Eagles are 4-2.
yeah. The Commanders. Did you mention the Falcons?
Oh, I haven't yet, but that was a team that I had listed. I didn't think they would. What they're are they 4-3 right now?
Um,
Yeah, 4-3.
yes,
I
they're
think I
four
would
and
have
three.
expected them to be 3-4 this far into
Sure.
like not horrible, but neither not leading the division.
Yeah,
They got spanked by Seattle, and the offense shut
yeah,
down. And Seattle doesn't have
yeah. Didn't
that.
they bench Cousins?
Yeah, I mean people
I
are
mean,
reading it as a
just
benching.
right.
I the game was out of hand. I think it was probably just
Right.
garbage time.
It was
Yeah,
out of reach. Yeah.
out of reach. Yeah, it's out of hand. Just
Well, that
people
too.
running everywhere.
This is getting out of hand.
The other team, like I did not, and this is somewhat spite. Um, I I didn't think the Broncos would actually be. The Broncos are doing pretty good, and they're
Yeah. They're doing better than
like,
I thought. Even the first couple of games, like they're doing better than what I even thought after the first couple of games.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like they started out kind of what I expected, and then it's like, well, they're actually, and some of them, they squeaked out a win against the Jets, which was, I don't know that Bo Nix had more than
Mm.
60 yards passing that game, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely some teams. Even the Eagles, like I wasn't going to be surprised. I figured and I still believe this. I think either the Cowboys or the Eagles are going to miss the playoffs, and largely because I think there's at least three coming out of the NFC North. Is there? There's a
Right.
chance all four could technically,
In
like in
theory,
theory,
yeah.
it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and right now, like in point differential, the well, actually, I guess I haven't checked since Sunday. As of Saturday, Minnesota, Lions, or Detroit, and then Green Bay led all of football in point differential.
That's interesting.
Um,
And it's even funnier because the division games that we've played have both been within like 3 points, I feel like.
yeah, but no, none of the three are being blown out by games. Like when they lose, they're losing close games. It's not big blowouts.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey Asher, I have to move to a different room. Give
Oh,
me one
sure.
second to babies.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's wrap this up with our week 8 picks for the finale here. Let me share my screen so that we can see what we're picking here. So, the Vikings, after a tough loss, they turn around and play on short rest in LA. What is your
Mm.
pick for the Rams versus Vikings?
It's I think it's gonna be a tough game. I think the Rams are better than the record and they get Cooper Cup back, but I'm picking Minnesota.
So I'm going to expose like just how kind of psychologically fragile I am here. Um, I had this game pegged as our first loss. I thought they'd beat Detroit
Oh,
and then they'd lose to the Rams because, well, for one thing, uh, yeah, just the short rest and all
you're
that. But
saying from the outset
no,
of
no,
the
no,
season
no,
you had this?
no. I
Oh,
thought they'd lose to the Niners way back.
okay. Okay.
But yeah, when like I always thought the Rams game would be really tough, and then when I as I saw week 4 another win, week 5 another win, I kind of looked at like no, I think they'll get the game in Minnesota against Detroit, and then they'd lose the game in Detroit. But I thought they'd get the game in Minnesota and then lose to the Rams for their first loss. And so
Sure.
I think I'm gonna pick the Rams to win, partly
Yeah.
because they're good. They're another well coached team.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think
Um,
Minnesota has a bunch of stuff stacked against them with the short rest and even some potential injuries kind of nagging them. But also somewhat because like maybe I need to go back to picking against them so that they start winning soundly again.
I'm trying to find where I had my season record picks. Maybe I should go back to I had
It
them.
I mean, if you scroll back far enough in our
Yeah,
chat, I know you had the.
I found a screenshot. I had them losing to the Rams as well, um, but winning in Detroit. I had them 3-4 after this week.
Oh,
So
interesting. So after
that was it.
after week 8, you had them 3-4.
Yeah, losing to the Rams
Yeah,
and going 3-4.
but I think so. They play the Rams here, and then they play the Colts, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Bears, and the Cardinals. And I think there's no reason why they couldn't go 4-1 for sure, if not 5-0 against. I mean, it's in Chicago, so that'll be
Yeah,
a tougher game. But um,
yeah,
I'm not at all like, oh no, they're gonna start losing and everything.
yeah. Even if
If
they would lose this game, yeah, they're coming out, come through the rest of the season. I mean, they could easily hit 12.
oh yeah, for sure, yeah, yeah. So Packers, what are we at? Packers at Jaguars, Jacksonville
I'm going
is.
Packers.
I agree. I think it'll probably be. Well, I guess they won. They beat the Patriots, didn't they?
For some reason, I can't see your screen share. It's just black, dark.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully. I mean, in the studio version here, I can see that it's sharing the screen. Hopefully that records.
Okay.
Um, or do you want me to quit sharing and reshare it? See what
Oh,
that does.
there it
Oh,
is.
you have it.
Now I see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Cardinals at Miami Dolphins.
Um, I have Arizona.
Yeah, I agree. Especially after sneaking out. The Chargers are one. They're a team that I'm like, they're not. They can't make up their minds what they're gonna. They're gonna be good or bad. But didn't they. They trounced the Steelers, didn't they?
Chargers.
Yeah, and then they
Uh, does does kind of feel like they did.
can barely scrape together points against the Cardinals.
Okay.
Anyways, Jets at Patriots. This will be a game to forget.
It um 4 game to remember. Um, I think the Jets will scrape it out just because it seems I don't know, it's just like that's right. I originally had the Pats because Drake May played really well a couple weeks or like whatever that was.
Hey, I picked him up in fantasy. He played well last week too.
Really?
He's producing more points for
Um,
me than Patrick Mahomes.
but Patrick Mahomes is having a real terrible year.
Well, no, last year Mahomes is not a good fantasy quarterback. Like he's the guy you want
He
when it
used to
comes to
be.
playoffs, but he's not a good fantasy quarterback. Yeah,
He used to be. He used to get like 40, 50 points.
that's true. I didn't have him in any of those years, but so if we're playing fantasy football based on who's going to win everything, then I'd be pretty good. But that's not how it goes. I think so. Here's the thing. I think the Patriots are going to get it, and maybe I am just like really anti Rodgers. But did you see Gerard Mayo call his
Defense soft.
defense soft?
Yeah, Mike Zimmer did that one time and he lost the locker room.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know either it's going to really like feel they're going to be angry at him and it'll
Yeah.
feel like a really good win and Drake May will do well, or maybe it's going to completely implode the team and the Jets win. Yeah, I don't know, but I'll go with them.
It I do feel like Mayo probably has a better relationship with his locker room than the guys
Well,
on
I
the
don't. Yeah, like I don't. I'm not saying that was good. I think that was probably a foolish thing to say as a head coach.
Yeah.
I just think that it might have somewhat of a not energizing, but like yeah, kind of angering them a little bit, and they might go out and I don't know. But then I guess that
To prove it.
justifies him doing that. Yeah. Ravens at Browns. Think Winston can
Ravens.
pull off a touchdown or two. Yeah, I go with
Maybe a
Ravens as
touchdown or
well.
two. But
Eagles at Bengals.
this was a hard one for me, but I tend to think Eagles will pull through it.
Do they? I haven't even paid attention. Is AJ Brown back or is he still injured?
I think so. I think he's back.
Yeah, I w-
He's
I
back
would
last week.
go. I would go with the Eagles as well. Both those teams have weak defenses, but the Bengals have the weakest of the two, and I just
Yeah.
think that yeah, I mean Eagles are one of those teams. They have a in my opinion they have a Super Bowl personnel. I don't think they have good
Right.
coaching, but they definitely have the people on the field to do it.
Yeah.
Col- Colts at Texans.
Texans.
Agreed. Lions or Titans at Lions.
Lions.
Agreed. So that means the Lions may officially have first place by a game and a half or whatever, however you count.
If the
But
Vikings lose to the Rams, I mean.
yeah, if my picks go, so we'll hope that your picks are better this week. Falcons at Buccaneers. Didn't they just play? They just played in Atlanta, didn't they?
I
Falcons at
I had the
Buccaneers.
same thought. They have played through like their entire division, I think, and
That's
now
crazy.
they're back at Atlanta. So I was like,
They're back in
because there were a
Tampa.
couple weeks in a row where I was like, did they just play? Because Falcons played Bucks, Bucks played Saints,
Yeah,
Falcons played Saints, and yeah, I forget what else. And then now they're playing Bucks again. But yeah, I think Falcons are going to win. I think the Falcons are playing well. I think the Bucks were a better team, but that last game just decimated them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
So
I'm so torn for Chris Godwin. I don't know exactly where Mike Evans is at, but
I think he's
it's
out for
rough.
4 weeks at least. If
He's on IR.
what I saw something about that. Yeah,
Yeah, if he's on IR, then he can't come back for till like for he has to sit for 4 weeks. Is what I'm saying.
he's expected to miss 3 games, at least 3 games.
All right, so he must not be on IR.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think the Bucks are a better team, but due to the injury, I agree. I think Falcons win the game.
Yeah,
At least I don't think the Bucks have quite the player development that the Chiefs do. Just throwing anybody out there, and all of a sudden
yeah,
they're still winning games.
still winning. Yeah, be interesting to see. Maybe they can.
Yeah, maybe Saints at Chargers.
I have the Chargers.
Yeah, same here. Bills at Seattle. Bill is at
This was
Seattle.
another one I waffled about. I think Seattle. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they play. They had a really great game against the Falcons past weekend. So, but I'm going with Buffalo. I think they're just too good,
Yeah,
especially now with Amari Cooper.
yeah, yeah. I think Amari Cooper really helps some of, well, definitely weaknesses in their offense, which I think were some of the bigger weaknesses. They do still have some weaknesses on defense, but I think the Bills will pull this out as well.
Yeah,
Essentially, like you gotta. come back to which is the better quarterback. Like it literally seems like the better quarterback wins, unless there's a huge discrepancy in the division, and unless you're
Yeah.
playing divisional rivals, because the Raiders get Mahomes every now and then, um, or not the Raiders, the Chargers. It's the Chargers that always get Mahomes, or who is that? Like the Panthers beat the Eagles. They're not right. Wasn't that last
Yeah.
year? The Panthers beat the Eagles,
It could
or who
be.
am I thinking of? Yeah, I guess they're not divisional rivals, but that was really random.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bears at Commanders. This will be a fun game.
It's a surprising fun game. Who would have thought about it? Kind of depends on Jaden Daniels, and
Oh
because
yeah,
of
what is
that,
his?
he's week to week. And obviously, like they
Okay.
played really well even after Marcus Mariota was in. I just don't think Marcus Mariota is capable of leading from start to finish a winning team at this point, but I could be wrong. Um, it just feels like Chicago might be just good enough, but feels a little bit like a toss-up.
Yeah. So who are you picking?
Chicago.
I pick Commanders. I agree. I don't think Mariota's good, but I do think he's good enough to have a good game, especially at the beginning. Like he actually played really
Mhm.
well when he came in, and and I mean they're just kind of an even split up. But the Commanders are home, and I got to differentiate from you somewhere, so I'll pick the Commanders because I don't think there's any other differentiation happening here with these final
It
games.
was Rams in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, I forgot there's. Well, I want to take a 2 game lead. I'm hoping I'm wrong about the Rams in Minnesota, so
Yeah.
I gotta.
Oh, and Pats and Jets. You
Oh
took the Pats, I took the Jets. Not that it
well,
has to make a difference.
now I have to rethink. No, I'll stick with the Commanders. Maybe it would be in our favor as Vikings fans if the Vikings actually win. So then that's you won over
Yeah,
me. So then the Pats and the Jets break us even, and the Commanders win. Not only gives me an edge over you, but it also makes the Bears go down farther.
there we go.
That's
I can get behind that.
even though you're ending up on the short end of the stick.
Well, as long, yeah. If I have Jets over Pats, then
If you're right on all 3 accounts, this is going to be a bad week for me. Chiefs at Raiders.
Kansas City.
Seriously? Panthers at Broncos. I agree. Kansas City. I have to verbalize that I agree because what I do is I take our transcript and dump it into AI rather than like going back through and watching. Oh, what did we pick? And and then it spits out to me. Asher
Uh,
picked this. Christopher picked this. And if I don't say it, then it doesn't know what to do with
it's
the
like, oh, that's
Panthers at
funny.
Broncos.
Broncos.
Yes. Cowboys at Niners.
This would have been a really interesting game. Um, it may still be now that the Niners are more on the Cowboys level. Um, I think Dallas will edge it out. There's a lot of injuries in 49ers, but
Really?
also, yeah, Brandon Ayuk is out for the year. They still don't have
Yeah, but
CMC.
Ayuk hasn't been doing anything anyways.
Well, but he's been pulling defenders, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go Niners. I think Niners win this game. I think Shanahan's
Okay.
little spiel to Purdy is gonna raise him to the next level. And Cowboys are going to meander in there thinking they have an easy win finally after losing a whole bunch. Plus Jerry
I
Jones.
mean, be happy for the Cowboys too.
Man, this could be a really good week. I mean, it's going to be a really good week for
Yeah,
one of us
yeah.
and bad for the other one.
Or it could still split down the middle if we both have like some losses and we both have some.
If our mutual agreements are all bad, yeah, it could be kind
Yeah.
of split. Um, well, I guess what I mean by it's going to be a good week, but for one of us is in our stats against each other. Like one of us is going to differentiate from the other.
Yeah, unless we go like every other one, like Vikings win, Pats win,
That's true. So why don't you choose the
Chicago wins.
Giants? You
No,
choose the Giants.
Pittsburgh is playing
Steelers.
too low.
What'd you say? Oh yeah,
I'm picking the Steelers. Get some
yeah. I mean,
get the
hold it.
Pittsburgh.
George Pickens had some pretty cool catches. It was fun to watch. I caught.
Yeah.
I did not catch the beginning of it. I think Russ took quite a while. They were saying it was he was being booed in the first
Russ?
half at least. Yeah,
Oh yeah, because he wasn't playing well.
but I saw the second half. It was just like, wow, this is looking really good. So it was kind of a
That'd
fun
be interesting.
game to watch. Okay, well that's it for this week. Again, if you enjoyed,
All right.
I'd be curious to hear if you're watching this and you do find this interesting.
Boy.
What? Why are you
No, go
laughing?
ahead. I'm not. I just thought you were gonna say a joke.
Oh, if you do find this interesting, I don't know why you'd be watching an hour into it. It's just like, man, this is really boring.
Nah.
if you're if you're here, I'd love to hear like what kinds of things, because we were talking a little bit off air, like what kinds of things would you enjoy hearing? Um, even some ideas of like, should we record these hour long? I think we've had one that was about a half hour, but they're basically hour long episodes. Should we do more like we've got a 30-minute episode on one thing, talking about the Vikings last game or talking about the different segments or whatever. Give us feedback and we will consider it. We are very much just kind of squeezing this into the time that we have. So it's
Yeah.
not like we can do a ton of different recording and stuff, but it'd be fun to hear what y'all would be interested in. We have fun sitting down and just hashing out football. That's why we started it. Is instead of just shooting 20-minute WhatsApp messages to each other, we sit here and record and have fun doing it. And what do you know? The Vikings are 5-1 after 7 weeks, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next week.
All right. See ya.